Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Her Words. I have with me a wonderful guest. Her name is Dr. Daksha Hirani. So allow me to introduce her formally. Dr. Hirani is a chartered clinical psychologist and an associate fellow of the British Psychological Society. She's also a member of the Healthcare Professional Council in UK, and she has over 20 years experience as a clinical psychologist. She's currently in private practice in London, and her key interests are in adult mental health and helping her clients recover from narcissistic abuse. Daksha, it is wonderful to have you here on In Her Words, and I am looking forward to learning more about this topic of narcissism and narcissistic abuse. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so to just get started, could you share a little bit more about your practice in the area of narcissistic abuse and how you came about to specialize in this area?
Absolutely. So when I trained, around 1999, when I was in my training, we were taught about narcissistic personality disorder, along with all the other personality disorders, and how to work with those client groups. But the focus was on some of the other more sort of prevalent, pervasive, sort of obvious personality disorders, where you might find that these people might be got into inpatient units, and then you've got to start working with them to see how they can go back into society and function in an adaptable way. But what I realized over time is that people with narcissistic personality disorder always sort of scrape the system. Very rarely or never would you find somebody being admitted for that personality disorder, because it's so easy to just go and live amongst everybody else with this mental condition and not be pinpointed or not to present yourself to an inpatient unit. So we weren't really taught much about it. I wasn't taught about it formally in the doctoral course to that degree. And so I started to research, and there's so much out there. We sort of came together, formed, discussed, had peer groups, and realized that there is a huge gap in the provision of support for people who've suffered narcissistic abuse, but also for therapists to understand when they are presented with somebody who has narcissistic traits on how to work with them. And so that's how I got into it.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Very enlightening, actually. Okay, so let's get to the terminology, all right? Could you define for the rest of us, what really is narcissism? What is narcissistic abuse and narcissistic personality disorder?
Absolutely, because these terms get thrown around. Yeah. Very simply put, narcissism is when people have an inflated sense of their own importance in the world over and above other people. So humility is something that they do not understand at all. In fact, they don't get it. It's like, well, why would anybody want to be humble? There is a sense of inflated sense of their own importance. What they say, what they taste, what they hear, what their likes and interests are far better and superior and more valid than the ones of people around them. And they have a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. And they're constantly seeking validation that I am great, I am good. And they'll seek out people that are going to give them that validation. It's almost like a drug that they need in order to feel, I exist. And they are, very often, in fact, I've not seen somebody who has narcissistic traits where the relationships around them are not troubled. They can go through relationships very quickly because they burn bridges, like nobody else. And they have a lack of empathy for others. They might be able to show and act and talk as if they have empathy. But the person on the receiving end will always be left with, they don't get it. There's a deep down gut thing is that they really don't get it. So there's no real empathy that they have for other people and other people's suffering in the world. So that's narcissism. Now, when it comes to narcissistic abuse, it's what happens when people like that, people who present with narcissistic traits, present themselves in front of somebody who is on the receiving end of this. And what the narcissist does is they use actions, words, and language in a manipulative manner, which is designed to damage, alter, or otherwise control the other person's behavior. Because it's only when they have that need of, right, I can see and I can control everybody around me, that the narcissist feels safe and secure. If they don't have that control around them, then they sort of, their sense of self is not there anyway. So they're like frazzled. So narcissistic abuse is when the person on the receiving end receives sort of all the weapons that they throw. Now, you asked about narcissistic personality disorder. You know, in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, narcissistic personality disorder is there. It's very well documented. And actually, people only need to fit maybe 55% of the criteria to actually fit the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. And what are some of these? They are, you know, a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, like I've mentioned, you know, making themselves appear impressive. They love, they're great speakers on the table, you know, sort of on stage, if they have that grandiose narcissist behavior. Because what I want to point out is that you can also get narcissists who are not grandiose. There are many, many other different types of narcissists which are covert. You don't really see them, but they work in insidious ways. And we can talk about that if it comes up. But if there is that need for admiration or need for attention, whether it's in the form of, wow, this person is great, or, oh, poor that person, they've had so much suffering, because you get the victim narcissists, or you get the somatic narcissists who are always, there's something wrong with them, and attention always has to be on them. So it's not always just positive attention. It can also be negative attention, but attention is attention. So they have a need for attention. They have fantasies about power, success, beauty, and an idealized sense and vision of love. So they talk the talk so well. In fact, these are people who could sell sand to the Arabs. They're very good at really getting the other person to buy their stuff.
Right.
Whatever it is that they're presenting, whether they are amazing people, whether they are victims of their childhood or victims of whatever they've gone through, everybody feels very sorry for them when they're really going for it. And they have a sense of entitlement, like, but of course, I am entitled to it. So it's like, this is mine. This is mine. It's like everything is an object, including people. And they have this sense of entitlement. And then they have this belief that they are special, unique, or a higher status. It's like there is this behavior pattern that just comes out where they think that they are better than everybody else around them. I'd mentioned the lack of empathy for others, and they have a tendency to exploit others around them. So it's almost mining them for attention or whatever control they can get, but it's always with the view of exploiting and taking. So narcissists are not givers. If they appear like they're giving, it's always because there is a underneath benefit that they're going to get from it, and that is the only reason why they're ever going to give. And there is, of course, the arrogant behavior that follows. So these are some of the classic narcissistic personality disorder traits. There are many others. Like I said, I mentioned briefly the somatic narcissist, the compassion narcissist, who's actually doing a lot of good all the time, but it's the intention behind that is because they get that, wow, this person is so amazing. So it's always because there is something to be gained in the reason of their intention of why they're doing something. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, there's quite a bit there, isn't it? So what I picked up on, lack of empathy, need for control, manipulation, inflated sense of importance, self-importance, need for admiration, fantasies about power, sense of entitlement. So quite a lot there for us to have a clear understanding, but very clearly explained, Daksha. Thank you for that. We've had a couple of discussions prior to this, and I do remember one of the things that you were saying in our conversations, you highlighted this link between social media and narcissism. So could you share why is that important for us to be aware of?
Well, there are many parallels with social media and narcissism, because if you think about it, when people post something on social media, what they're looking for is validation that, how many likes have I got? How many people like me? And this projection of a self of yourself, a sense of yourself that is bigger than, and it's popular, and there's this admiration that they're craving. And as you crave all of that, it's the thing about, I am better than, oh, I've got this many followers, I've got that many followers. So this belief that they're special or unique or high status. I've got a number of, I was speaking to a high school teacher the other day, and she asked, I was just talking, how is it going? And she said, what are your students going to be going into? What are they thinking about in terms of careers this day and age? And she said, I'm flabbergasted. Everybody wants to be an influencer. Right. And they want to earn a lot of money by being influencers. Now, what is an influencer if not somebody who has achieved something amazing and therefore is able to positively influence society for the betterment and the good of society? Mm-hmm. But if you look at a lot of the influencers, there is no qualification that's going behind the influence. So when a narcissist presents as I'm grandiose or I'm amazing, if you look at the qualification of exactly what it is that they are saying that they are, there isn't that much there. Right. So for example, somebody might sell themselves as a health guru, or I'm this lifestyle changer, but when you look at their own health, it might be riddled with heart disease, or it might be riddled with very poor health and diet, but they're not going to present that to the world. They're going to say, and so there's that complete break. And a lot of it, social media, is you just see the best snippets of somebody's life, but not really the humdrum of what life is really about. We all wake up in the morning looking like, not like we are, we are at the moment, all dolled up, sort of makeup and all. So it's about being very aware that society nowadays is promoting and almost rewarding behaviors that are narcissistic in nature. That's why it's very important to be aware that you don't get sucked into that, because certainly in my private practice, I see that mental health is really affected. It doesn't mean that just because you've got, 1,000, 10,000 likes or followers that you're going to be happy. I've seen too often, say a client who's got, lots of books published and is huge following, but they're very, very unhappy and presenting for therapy. It really, so there's that to think about.
Right. Just to jump in there, have you seen a rise in younger people seeking therapy, coming to you for help?
Not necessarily. I think it's across the board. Mm-hmm. What I do know, and what I think is very good, is that younger people are more and more presenting themselves for therapy, because the stigma that was there, certainly when I was much younger, is slowly chipping away. Slowly, but it's getting there. And I think that's all for the good. So when they present themselves, I say, go on, go for it. If you're going to better yourself, help yourself, and it's going to work for you, go for it.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about recognizing signs of abuse. So how would one recognize that they are suffering from narcissistic abuse? What would be some signs and indicators?
I think the key here is looking within.
Right.
When people present with narcissistic abuse, and certainly when I'll have clients coming in who are coming in for panic disorder, or anxiety disorders, or depression, or anger, irritation, a lack of self-confidence, lack of self-esteem, or burnout from work, or burnout just from life, and they're always sort of anxious, they're walking on eggshells, these are all signs and symptoms that you might be suffering from narcissistic abuse. So the key here is educate yourself on what narcissistic abuse is, and not just what you see pranced around everywhere on YouTube and so on, or what the classic narcissistic personality disorder is. Look into the other types of narcissistic personality traits, like I say, the somatic narcissist, or the victim narcissist, or the covert narcissist. Look at their behaviors, because once you start to educate yourself and look around, observe all the people around you and see who in my world has these traits. And I've got adults who presented with to me, and they'll say, wow, that's my mother, or that's my father, or that's my uncle, or that's my grandfather, or that's my friend, or that's my brother, that's my sister. So once the penny starts to drop, then they realize actually those are unhealthy behavior patterns which are affecting their own mental health. So first thing is to recognize and see how your own mental health is, what's the state of it, and see where might that be coming from, and give importance to your story and the people around you. Just listen.
Okay, so let's go to the abuser now. You've already touched on some of their characteristics earlier on when you were defining the terms. So what are some key behavioral patterns of the narcissistic abuser, or one who exhibits NPD?
It's helpful to understand the acronym CRAP, because what narcissists are doing is they're throwing crap at you.
That's very interesting. Yeah,
exactly. And it's a good way to think of it. And what is crap? So if you write it down sort of downways, crap, C is the fear of criticism. So they will criticize you. If and only if you have that insecurity of you don't want to be criticized, or you get triggered when you're criticized, because you like to be the good person, you're a people pleaser, and you don't like to be seen as a bad person. So gosh, if somebody criticizes you, you get triggered. That makes you vulnerable to a narcissist, because the narcissist knows that that is a wound that you have, an insecurity that you have, because of the fear of criticism. And therefore they will criticize you here and there, or they will say something nice, or like oh, you've got a nice dress on, but I'm not sure that that color fits you. So it's like upping you and then putting you down. So it's this nagging thing, that nags. That's criticism. Or they'll criticize your job, or the way you cook, or the way you walk, or the way you drive, or the way you speak, but it'll be like in amongst some other stuff they're doing that's not so bad. So this criticism is one way that they can get you. And the R in crap would be the fear of rejection. So if you fear rejection in people, they will threaten you with rejection. It's like they might give you the silent treatment. They might just stop talking to you because you don't want to be rejected as a person, and that will trigger you. So they'll use sort of those kind of things against you. And then you've got A, which is abandonment, the fear of abandonment. If you have the fear of abandonment, then the narcissist will always use that against you. And they will use the fear of the things that come with abandonment. Like, you're going to have nobody in your life, and I'll be gone. Nobody's going to love you like the way I have loved you. Or, you should be grateful that you have a mother like me or a father like me. So you've got the A, fear of abandonment. And P is the fear of punishment. If you have been bullied as a child, you will know that actually when somebody shouts at you or is really aggressive towards you, it doesn't feel nice. And if you have that trauma that's still within your body, then the narcissist loves it, because they can use that against you to control you. So that's the P, the fear of punishment. And so that might be through rage. Now, whilst crap is how the narcissist gets into your psyche, when you put all of that together, because it's not just like one or two, some people might have 2 or 3, some people might have all 4, some people might have just 1, it doesn't matter, they get in. And the other behaviors that will manifest, the behavioral patterns that can manifest, are things like gaslighting. And this is where, you know, people talk about gaslighting and say, oh, you gaslighted me and you gaslighted me. But think about what is gaslighting. And this comes from a 1930s movie where, you know, in Psycho, there's this movie where the partner of the wife, you know, is literally getting her to not believe her own reality. So she goes around putting the lamps on and gas lights on in the middle of the night, because at that time it would be pre-electricity days. And what he would do, unbeknownst to her, is put those down, put those lower. She comes into the room and says, you know, I put the lights on. And he's like, no, I mean, look at them. I mean, just, what, you know, this is how you left it. So she is completely unaware that he has gone and done this. So she starts to doubt her own eyes, doubt her own ears, doubt her own 5 senses, doubt herself as a person. And she literally loses all sense of confidence, of self-belief. And I have seen very often where narcissists will do this, where we don't have the gas lights, in, you know, actual gas lights, don't have electricity these days. But here's the kind of thing that they will do. They will go and move things around in your bedroom, or they will go and put stuff there and say, oh, I put that there. No, look at this. You must have left it like this.
Right.
And then you start to question, really? Am I really losing my mind? Am I like thinking I'm so worried and that I'm not really present? And they do little things like that. Or they will say, remember you told me this? And like, you know, that conversation never happened. But the way they speak is so convincing. They look right into your, not just your eyes, but your soul. It's like, I would never do that. Like, why would, you know, I know you say that, I hear it. And it was and they make a whole story about how and when and what the context was, to the point that you then start to doubt your own sense of reality. So that's gaslighting, super dangerous. Very, very important to go within, to really listen to your gut, to say, well, what is truly right? Because that doesn't feel right. So these are some of the behaviors. Now, remember, I'm talking about the very popular ones, but don't forget the other narcissistic traits as well, which are the person who is always a victim. You know, I have had a bad childhood. I have had a bad marriage. I have had a bad this. And they are professional victims when it suits them. Because, and you know that this is put on and fake, because in the next minute, if they were to be seen with another group of people, they would be grandiose and they would be amazing. Like, that doesn't make sense. And they tend to keep people apart so that they can get the narcissistic supply from here. You know, oh, poor him. He's so, oh, we feel sorry for him. And wow, he's amazing. He's so great. Or she is so great. Or she, you know, it can be both her or him. Or they. Anybody can have these traits, although it is more prevalent in men. So I hope that this sort of gets a gist, and you get a sense of the key behavioral patterns when somebody's exhibiting narcissistic abusive disorder.
Yeah, certainly. I really like the acronym. Okay, so how they try to infiltrate your psyche. All we have to do would be to remember the CRAP acronym. So the C, the fear of criticism. R stands for fear of rejection, you mentioned. A, fear of abandonment. And then P, fear of punishment. So very interesting point about gaslighting as well. And, like you said, there's so much within this topic area and this personality type that, there's so many different areas to look at. So thank you very much for being able to break it down for us so that we have a clearer awareness of at least some of the more important aspects of this personality type. So along the line of the same question, what then drives these abusers? What is their motivation?
Well, if you think about what the narcissist is, where does the term narcissism come from in the first place? Mm-hmm. Narcissism comes from the Greek word narcissus, and Narcissus was the spawn of God. He was never God, so he was never immortal, but he lived among the gods. So narcissists know that there's something off about them. They know that they don't quite have that sense of self that the people around them have. And it's like they want that, but they don't know how to get it, and they'll never get it, because this is something that has come from nature and nurture, and it is a mental disorder.
Right.
So Narcissus, really, really wanted immortal life. And there's the whole story that goes with it. But at the end of the day, the key here is that he was besotted by beauty, and he fell in love with himself, and he looked into a pond and saw his reflection. It was so beautiful that all he could see was his reflection, nothing else, nothing in the surrounding. All he could see was himself. So narcissists can only really have sight of their needs, their wants, what they want, not about what anybody else wants. Now they might learn the rules of, well, if I just do this, I'm not going to be really liked. So they learn that if I can pretend and fake to show empathy, pretend and fake to show that I'm XYZ, that it'll be more acceptable, but they don't really mean it. They don't really feel it. They just go through the motions. It's almost like a bother for them. I'm gonna have to do this but all their vision is, this is what I want. So what drives the abuser is their own needs, always their own needs. And they know deep down, if you look at the narcissist looking at the reflection has no depth.
Right.
It's just very surface. It's so superficial, and it's so fleeting. It's not real. So the moment somebody just dips into it, you get ripples, and the perfection of a still sort of image goes. So a narcissist's ego is extremely fragile. I mean, they are, if you really look at it, underneath all of this bravado, they are extremely weak and very fearful and very scared that somebody's going to find out the truth about them. And the truth about them is like, they are shallow. There's no depth to them. It's just like a surface. You look in the mirror and there's nothing behind the mirror. It's like, that's just what you see. There's nothing there. There's no substance.
Right.
So when you don't have that and you're that fragile, there are only a few things that you can do to make yourself feel like you're not fragile. So they will go for power and control, and they will do that no matter what it takes. If it means that they have to run over their business relationships, they have to run over their family relationships, their wives, their children, their husbands, their parents, their sisters, brothers, it doesn't really matter who they're going to run over, if it means that they can exert power and control, so they can have that sense of, right, I'm okay, I'm safe, because underneath it, there's nothing.
Right.
So it's really the power and control due to their deep insecurities and lack of sense of self for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think it's very interesting because in essence, they are extremely fragile. Their ego is, extremely fragile. They lack confidence, but at the same time, they are probably aware of it. And then that's where the power and control comes in. And this nicely leads to the next question, actually, which is, why is it so difficult to extract oneself from a narcissistic relationship or partnership?
Well, I would say it's because, firstly, it's so difficult to pinpoint in people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody is allowed to be sorry, sad that, oh gosh, my life, this has happened, that has happened. So there is an element of, all of us being victims of life. But it's about, there's all of us have a need for that self-esteem, to be able to go and present, and really present in a way that you can show what it is that you want to give to the world. And those behaviors can mimic and look like a narcissist's behavior.
Right.
So it's not in so much the behavior, it's about the intention and the effect that that behavior has. Of course, some people, I would say, criticizing somebody or ridiculing somebody, abusing somebody, bullying somebody is a no-no. You just don't go there. It's nasty, it's bad, and it's just bad form. Why is it difficult when somebody is in the midst of somebody who's experiencing all this, is to remove themselves? Though it's one word, it's, well, two words: trauma bonding. So you bond in, you're bonded in that trauma, and you don't know how to extricate yourself. Now, trauma bonding happens in many, many different ways. The classic trauma bonding that people will say is what we call the Stockholm syndrome, where you get the person who is the abuser exerting so much power and control that the victim looks at that power and control, be it it's fake, we know that, but they themselves have a really low sense of self-worth. And they mistakenly believe that if they go in the shadow of this power and control, they will be safe by proxy. So they tend to almost worship and get attached and even fall in love with the actual abuser. So that's an extreme form of trauma bonding. But you also get trauma bonding in many different other ways. People who are empathetic, people who really care for other people, the world, and who have a deep sense of their own self, a deep sense of strength, will often get trauma bonded because they tend to justify that other person's behavior. They make excuses for that other person's behavior, and they feel sorry for the other person. So when they see the narcissist getting their tearfulness out and their sorrowfulness out, they feel a sense of, oh, poor them, and I'd like to get it better for them. I want to improve their life for them. Or even when in another phase, that same narcissist is belittling them, is not letting them thrive, you say, they're not letting me thrive because they have got this trauma from their childhood, or because they have this trauma from there. And you excuse that behavior and you say, this negates that one. And so when people justify behavior, that's a type of trauma bonding. You get many, many other different types of trauma bonding, which just keeps that person in there. Fear, I would say, is the biggest thing that keeps somebody in the narcissistic relationship. Because remember, the narcissist acts and feeds on your fear right. of crap. So the thing that's going to make it most difficult for you to leave the relationship is going to be that fear. Mm-hmm. So the key here is to recognize what your fears are. If and when you're able to overcome those fears, the narcissist cannot touch you.
Right.
Okay. Your wounds, there are no wounds for them to go and rub salt on, so they can't touch you. Yeah.
Very good to know. Thank you. Okay. Can you share with us something with regard to parent-child relationships, particularly when one parent exhibits signs of narcissism? So how does that work out in a parent-child situation?
that in itself is a whole other podcast.
Huge, yes.
But what I can say in a nutshell is that it is impossible to co-parent with a narcissist. You know, narcissists are not team players. They don't pull their weight in anything. They like to show and present like they do. It's all fake. It's all a persona, but there's no substance to it. And they all chop and change their story if it means that they don't have to be responsible for whatever parenting that they need to be, that they need to be doing. So what I would say, the true word when you're parenting with a narcissist, it's parallel parenting.
Right.
You parent the way you're going to parent. So for example, if you are a man who has got a narcissistic partner, an ex-partner, you parent the way you're going to parent, with your own rules, with everything that you're going to, and then the woman can do it her way. Or reverse, if the man has got the narcissistic personality disorder, he's going to do it the way he wants to do it, and smear you and make, you know, and it'll be stuff that you cannot control, so don't even bother. Let him. But your job is to parent and offer your children the support that you want to give them, the way you want to parent. It takes a while for the parents for the children to realize which parent is literally taking the responsibility and which parent is absolving their responsibility because of this justification or that justification or that excuse or whatever it is. The key, I would say, is, you know, for parents who are parenting in this way, hard as it is, do not label the other parent as a narcissist.
Right. Yeah.
Because it just doesn't help, because the children need that sense of security in both, even though they're not really getting security. I have never met a child who has been co-parented or parallel parented in this way who doesn't suffer from anxiety, depression, or mental health conditions, because the narcissist cannot help but spread misery around them. Everybody around them one day finds out the true nature of the narcissist, because they always fall, they always falter, they cannot help it. Right. And so they dig their own holes. You don't have to do anything. Your focus has to be yourself and your children. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think it would be good to share with everyone here on the treatment options, or where one can go to receive help, or what kind of help is available to those suffering from narcissistic abuse.
Well, I think firstly, educate yourself a little bit about it, but not overly. You know, when people they first find out that they have suffered narcissistic abuse, their whole life, day and night, is sort of revolves around just soaking in all this information. And I think that's good, but there's a danger to it, because the key here is not the narcissist. That's just a decoy. The key here is you. Look into you and say, why did I find myself in the situation where I found myself, where I started to live my life according to somebody else's agenda? And in order to do that, I think therapy is very helpful. But if you are going to do that, then make sure you go and see a therapist that is specialized in narcissistic abuse. Right. Because otherwise, I have seen all too often where the therapists tend to make it worse, because they are not aware, and they're not able to pinpoint and watch out for the different signs that this person is indeed in a narcissistic abusive relationship. And therefore they might, for example, continuously tell this person, you've got to co-parent, and this person's getting worse and worse, when they realize actually what really needs to be happening is parallel parenting for the children's mental health and for their mental health. You know, you've got YouTube channels that are very helpful. And there is one particular doctor, clinical psychologist, that I would recommend everybody watch. I've watched her. I think she's fantastic. And her name is Dr. Ramani.
Yes,
She's
I've watched quite a few of her sessions.
yeah, she's very eloquent. And I would say, educate yourself about this. There are lots of books about narcissistic abuse and narcissistic syndrome, is all this manifestation. And, going back to your question, what kind of help is available for those suffering from narcissistic abuse? Use your social support. And what tends to happen with narcissistic abuse is when you tend to find out the truth about the narcissism, immediately you start getting smeared by the narcissist, because he'll want to control or she'll want to control and paint a bad picture about you or him or her. Don't worry. The people who get sucked into the narcissist stories weren't meant to be in your life anyway. Good riddance. And then recognize that there are 8 billion people on the planet. Go and find your group that's going to listen to your story, that's going to accept you. And the key here, in order for you to be able to do that, is adapting. Adapt, adapt, adapt. The narcissist is very good at adapting to situations to make them work for their benefit. Your job is to do the same, but in a healthier way. Adapt, adapt, adapt. No matter what the narcissist throws at you, you overcome, 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 and then heal, 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 so that you're sort of rising up, whilst inevitably the narcissist is going to go down.
Right. Okay. All right. I can see that this has been your passion, helping those, heal from narcissistic abuse. Is there anything else you'd like to share about, why you have decided to focus on this particular area as one of the areas that you're, or one of the services that you're offering?
Sure. I have as a clinical psychologist, mental health has always been something that I've felt passionate about. Right. A sense of, if you can alleviate the suffering of anybody or lessen somebody's suffering, and you can make a positive impact on the world, it's rewarding and it's productive and it's just great. It's so much fun. It's good. But what I have realized in my own personal life is, as I have, matured, now approaching 50, you get the sense of, I have suffered narcissistic abuse in different parts of my life. And you realize, whether it's family members, whether it's relationships, personal relationships, intimate relationships, or any kind of relationships, when you start to realize the impact, the deep impact that narcissistic abuse can have on your own mental health. So there have been times when my own mental health has deteriorated because I found myself amongst this sort of poison. And I thought, hang on a minute, there's not enough being done about this. And there's certainly not awareness about this. And if I can learn to empower myself, not because I'm a clinical psychologist, but because I've picked up on all the different things that I know can help to overcome. And it's possible to overcome. It's possible to thrive. And the realization that this has got nothing to do with the narcissist. It's just got everything to do with you as the person. And you start focusing on yourself. And when you do that, it's so liberating. And if people around and the world can have a little bit of this, then why the hell not?
Yes.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Very well put, wonderful information, wonderful sharing. And as we wrap up, I'd just like to ask you this final question. What would you like us to know if we find ourselves in this situation? What would be your final message if any of us find ourselves in this particular kind of relationship?
I would say safety first. Make sure you are safe. Make sure you're physically safe. And then emotionally and psychologically, those are things that you got to whittle away, work on yourself, seek support, seek help, And, I want to end with this. Narcissists, if we turn, every coin has two sides. On the one side, the narcissist presents as somebody who is out to completely demolish you, to vanquish you. But the other side of the coin, if you turn it around, they can only vanquish you, they can only demolish you if they have sight of your crap. Right. So what they are doing is they're pointing out the areas that you have weakness in. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, okay, I didn't know that, but they got it out of me. Fine, forget them. Look at that crack within you, mm-hmm. and try to heal. So in a sense, in a twisted way, the narcissists are teachers. They teach you, and they tell you how you can heal yourself on the parts that need healing. They teach you and educate you on, these are my insecurities. Wonderful, thank you. It's an opportunity for me to now work on myself. And so you always focus on yourself, go within and heal all your own wounds, and see the narcissist as literally a teacher who's out there to pinpoint all the things that you need to work on. But that's all they're of any use. Make sense?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I learned so much from just listening to this conversation and the points that you've highlighted. So thank you so much for all your insight, for your sharing, for the stories, and really just opening your heart and soul to give all of us a better understanding of narcissism. I do want to tell all of you that Dr. Hirani's contact details will be posted, but Daksha, could I just have you mention your email in case somebody wants to contact you or learn more about this?
Absolutely. So you can find a little bit more information about what I do on my website, which is www.parmi, that's PARMI.co.uk. And the email is info, at parmi.co.uk. That's PARMI.co.uk. Thank you,
Daksha. And like I said to all of you, all her information will be made available pretty soon. Okay, so thanks again, Daksha. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I certainly will be chatting with you again soon. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.